doesn't need me either. They haven't needed me for over 2 years, and it won't change a thing if I leave for good. Yes, it will, the village will lose its ray of sunshine that brought me back, Tsunade said sadly with tears threatening to leave her eyes. Naruto frowned at that before he walked over to her and enveloped her in a warm hug. She was initially surprised at his actions before she returned the embrace and shed a single tear. She would miss her godson terribly, and she knew Shizune would as well. Shizune and Naruto had a sibling relationship that seemed to outdo relationships between even blood siblings. Everyone could see how close they were during their interactions around the village. She was currently working her shift at the hospital, and would be devastated once she heard the news of Naruto retiring. After they separated from the hug, Tsunade pulled out the retirement forms and a pass to leave Konoha. Naruto quickly filled out the forms, handed them to Tsunade in exchange for the pass, and gave her one last hug before he left her office. Once he was outside the door, Tsunade shed one more tear at his departure. "Good luck, Naruto," she whispered to the empty office. With Naruto. The blonde was currently heading for his apartment complex for the last time. Many people who saw him in the village paid him no mind and just went about their business. Even if Naruto was revered as the hero of the flame, there were some who still gave him nothing more than a passing glance. He was just about to pass Ichirako Ramen before he stopped and decided to say his farewells to the father-slash-daughter duo. He entered the stand to see it looking the same as it always had, the large counter, many stools, and few customers that were finishing up their bowls of noodles. He smiled softly at the many memories he had in this very stand with Irika, Jiraiya, and the 2 Ichiraka chefs. Speaking of the Ichiraka duo, Ayam noticed him enter, and gave him a wide smile before running around the counter and enveloping him in a hug. He returned the happy embrace while offering a smile and greeting to Tucci, who was observing them from behind the counter. After releasing him, Ayam said, "It's so good to see you again, Naruto-kun. It's been too long." "It's good to see you too, Ayam-chan. However, this isn't just a social visit. There's something I have to tell you and Tucci Gigi." The two were curious about what he had to say, but they merely waited for him to speak. Naruto gave them a sad smile before he dropped the bomb. "I retired as a Konoha shinobi, and am leaving the village, for good." Tucci and Ayam were shocked at his statement. "Why did you do that, Naruto?" questioned Tucci. "I did it because I'm returning to my Kaa-san's home village, Yuzu. I plan to rebuild it, and have it flourish as a shinobi village once again." Ayam was surprised at that before she smiled sadly to him. "You always were one to dream big, Naruto-kun, but what about becoming Hokage? Did you give up on that?" He nodded before replying, "The village doesn't need me, they haven't for over 2 years now. Besides, rebuilding my home is more important to me right now." Tucci frowned slightly. "You never saw this place as home, did you, son?" Naruto sighed at the question. "Not completely, old man. I know that you and all of the people I've come to love will always be seen as family in my eyes, but this place just never felt like home. I can't explain it other than feeling a sense of longing whenever I bring up Yuzu into a conversation. It's like I feel homesick or something." Tucci nodded while Ayam smiled. "I completely understand, Naruto. You're feeling your ancestral home calling for you, the last of the Uzumaki. Your mother always mentioned about being homesick as well, but she grew to see Konoha as home eventually. I guess it's merely the opposite with you, huh?" asked the ramen chef. Naruto chuckled at that. "Yeah, I guess it is. Well, that was all I wanted to say, so this is goodbye." Ayam quickly gave him another hug while Tucci placed a comforting hand on the blonde's shoulder. "I promise that I won't forget you guys. You were the first people I ever saw as family after all." Naruto then separated from them, said one final goodbye, and left the stand. Ayam shed a couple tears but quickly wiped them away as Tucci thought, "There goes a man destined for incredible things." Naruto had reached his apartment a couple minutes after leaving the stand and packed away the essentials inside of a small sealing scroll. He then lifted up a small carpet that held a seal on the floorboard before he deactivated the seal. The seal then released the bindings on the floorboard and Naruto pulled out a single scroll that was from his late mother, Kushina. The scroll merely gave the location of Yuzu and a brief insight on what the Uzumaki specialized in. The Uzumaki clan was famous for one thing, Fuinjutsu, and they were greatly feared and respected for it. Unfortunately, it was the fear of what the clan could have become that set off its destruction from Kumo and Iwa in the past. However, Naruto held no grudges since he did not live in the time of the clan. After putting the scrolls into his pocket, he took one last look at his home and reminisced about the nights he spent alone as a child. He shook his head out of those depressing thoughts as he began heading for the main gates to leave. Suddenly, he tensed and caught a kunai heading for his cheek. He then felt a familiar weight on his back and gave a small grin. "Nice of you to see me off, Anko," said Kunoichi smirked as she got off of him before giving a playful pout. "What's the deal with you not telling me you were leaving, Foxy? I only told Baa-chan and the Ichirako family goodbye. I was actually hoping to avoid saying it to anyone else altogether." Anko's fake pout turned real at that. "Not even me? I thought we were close, Gaki." We are, but saying goodbye to those three was hard enough as it was. Saying it to anyone else would have been too much." He then gave her a small smile and added, "If it's any consolation, you would have been one of the first I'd have said it to." Anko returned the smile and said, "Yeah, I can live with that." "Are you sure about this though? I thought you had big dreams here?" Naruto shook his head at her questions. "Not anymore. My future plans revolve around Yuzu and restoring it." He then embraced her one last time and teased, "Try not to drive the people too crazy when I'm gone." Anko smiled at that as she returned the embrace. "No promises, Naruto." After releasing him, she gave him one last smirk and warned, "Don't lose your edge, Foxy. You never know when I'll see you again. And when I do, I expect you to still be in top form." Naruto chuckled at her antics. "I'll do my best, Anko. Goodbye," he said before he walked through the gates and left the village. Anko's smirk turned into a sad smile as she silently wished her friend good luck before she left for home. Nami no Kuni, Land of Waves, 2 weeks later. It took Naruto only a couple days to reach Nami, and he happily got reacquainted with the people there. They were all excited to see their hero return and were more than happy to welcome him. He spent the remainder of the week trying to have someone take him as close to Yuzu as they could on a boat. He was in luck and found one by the end of the week, but he decided to stay for one more just to relax. He was retired after all, so he could take his time getting home. The week of RNR was mainly spent in the company of Tazuna's family. His daughter Tsunami welcomed Naruto like a son who hadn't been home in years, while Inari was glad to have his Nii-san back in Nami. Naruto told them stories of the war and the years that followed, and the three were surprised that the Shinobi Alliance had turned on each other so quickly. They also agreed that Naruto needed a break from constantly being the mediator of the disputes between villages. It saddened them that he talked about his experiences like a veteran past his prime instead of a young man. Naruto thoroughly enjoyed his time in Nami, but he knew that he had to get a move on. After saying his goodbyes to the people of Nami, he left for Yuzu on the boat he rented. The boat ride ended up taking a couple days before they stopped a few miles away from the coast. According to the boat driver, the boat couldn't go any further due to the whirlpools surrounding the island. Naruto thanked the man and paid him before he stepped onto the water and began walking to the shore. Due to his Uzumaki blood, the whirlpools calmed when he neared them and resumed their torrents when he passed them. Once Naruto stepped onto the shore, he gazed upon the ruins of his home and smiled sadly. "I'm home, Kaa-sen. And now, I've got a lot of work to do." Naruto started off by searching through the ruins for anything worth scavenging. His Kagebunshin, shadow clones, technique was immensely helpful in searching the ruins. In the span of 2 hours, the entire village, except the Yuzukage office, had been searched and Naruto was lucky enough to find 2 scrolls, a medallion, and a trapdoor in one of the collapsed buildings. The scrolls were on Raitun, lightning element, techniques and Fuinjutsu. Naruto was glad that he had discovered during the years after the war that he had a secondary affinity to lightning, giving him affinities for Futon, wind element, and Raiten Jutsu. The scroll seemed like it was Kami's way of welcoming him home. The techniques were B2A rank jutsu, but there were only 3 total jutsu that were readable in the scroll, 2 B ranks and 1 A rank. He would work on them later. The Fuinjutsu scroll was actually a scroll for adept to master Fuinjutsu users, which suited Naruto just fine. He had taken up the intricate art of Fuinjutsu during his time away from the village, and was a natural with them. He assumed it was his Uzumaki blood, and left it at that. The teachings in the scroll were damaged slightly from the village's destruction, but it was still perfectly usable. The medallion was silver with a ruby gem in the center. Naruto and Kurama both noticed that there were seal arrays on the medallion that protected it from damage, as well as stored chakra into the gem. Naruto smirked at the thought of restoring his chakra quickly with the seal. He wondered if he could store some of Kurama's Yuki in it as well, but he would test it later. As for the trapdoor, it led to an underground bunker for the Uzumaki. Naruto was surprised with the discovery and wondered if there were other Uzumaki survivors besides his mother and Nagato. He searched the bunkers, only to find blood smears along the walls and decaying skeletons on the ground. Naruto shed a tear for the deaths of his ancestors and silently vowed to restore their honor. During his searching, he came across a small Chi-Fuian, blood seal, along the wall, and offered the blood required to it. The seal glowed before the wall in front of him separated and revealed a hidden office to the blonde. Naruto stepped inside to see that the office had remained untouched. There were scrolls on a shelf and what looked to be plans for a seal that was labeled Jaya Kasetsu Fuian, Paradox Seal. Apparently, the seal was meant to place someone in a state of suspended animation until someone that met the seal's requirements removed it. While under the effects of the seal, one was supposed to age at a far slower rate, and the seal would also keep the body's health in the condition it started off with when using the seal. Naruto was impressed with the plans and sealed them away in a separate scroll, so that he could attempt to finish it. He then searched the other scrolls and saw that they were more lessons on Fuinjutsu, but these were for Master Sealers. Master Sealers were practitioners of Fuinjutsu that had enough experience to use seals for practically anything. Based on the scrolls, Naruto deduced that the idea of the Jaya Kasetsu Fuian was thought up by at least a few Master Sealers. After emptying the office, Naruto searched the rest of the bunker but found nothing else. As he left, he placed multiple Bakuden Fuian, bomb seals, to destroy the bunker and the skeletons within. Naruto wished the souls a peaceful rest as he activated the seals and destroyed the bunker. The last building Naruto had to check was the Uzukage's office. He had his clones avoid that building mainly because he wanted to search it himself. Once he stepped inside the office, he saw that it was mainly ashes and dust. He silently cursed Iwa and Kumo before he began looking through the ashes. He didn't find anything solid in the office, but he did find another Chi-Fuian on the floor. When he released the seal, he pulled out a small scroll and saw that it was a final letter written by the last Uzukage. The letter read, "To the Uzumaki who finds this, I regret to say that I have failed in defending our home. Uzushiogakure was a thriving village full of life and peace. We meant no harm to any of the other shinobi nations and tried to reason with them, but they were too stubborn and paranoid to see reason. Yuzu is most likely destroyed by now, but I'm sure you can rebuild. There will always be the village of Yuzu if there is but a single Uzumaki alive. Remember this, for I assume you are all we have left of our once great clan. Farewell, Arashur Uzumaki, the Nidain Uzukage." Naruto reread the letter twice before he sighed and turned his gaze to the ruined village. There will always be the village of Yuzu. I suppose it's time to prove the statement is true. And with that, Naruto summoned his Kage Bunshin and began the long process of rebuilding his home. 2 years later. As he thought, the rebuilding of Yuzu took quite a while. It took at least half a year to remove the rubble and dispose of it into the many whirlpools surrounding the island, while it took the remaining year and a half to rebuild.